Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here, we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. Hannah, welcome to the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with you and your feed. I'm going to be very honest.
I get that a lot.
Yeah. So I came to you when I was scrolling through Instagram, and you had one of those posts where you were like, you do not need another pair of Aritzia Lodge pants. You do not need a polo sweater or whatever was in at the time. I'm like, get out of my head. Who is this chick? And so I dove into your platform from there. And I want to hear how this all started. Give me the lowdown on your story and how you ended up creating, such an amazing platform.
Oh, it's so funny. People's reaction to those hard-hitting reminders is either, oh my goodness, I needed this today, or get out of my head. I never want to see this on my feed again. So you're definitely not alone in that. I started my platform with a style audit just under 2 years ago, and it really was the result of my own transformative journey when it came to how I shopped and how I spent money. I spent pretty much all of my 20s quietly struggling with compulsive shopping habits that resulted in thousands of dollars of credit card debt, constant streams of packages and clutter, a disconnection with my own personal style, and always, falling into comparison. And so once I realized that this was such a problem in my life and did the work to change it, it felt really important to me to be able to share what I had learned with other people. And that's really how my platform was born.
Mm-hmm. And so what was the moment where you were like, okay, I have a problem. This is a problem?
There was a lot of little moments along the way. Definitely every time I would, make a budget and break it, or pay off a chunk of my credit card debt and then see it rack up again. There was a lot of little moments like that. But I think for a long time, I ignored the severity of the problem and ignored that it was something that I would actually have to really get to the bottom of until I got engaged a couple of years ago. I got married last year, and I think entering a new chapter of life where now my finances were going to start impacting someone else. There were all of these things that I had dreamed of for a long time, like buying a house and having a family, that were going to start being jeopardized by my spending and shopping habits. And that was really the wake-up call for me that forced me to realize, okay, clothes and shopping is not as big of a priority as these other things. So why am I acting in a way that isn't aligned with that reality? And how do I actually change that?
How did you talk to yourself around it's no big deal, I'll figure it out later? What is that mindset? Because I definitely, I had, the racked up credit card, and it just was what it was. And it never bothered me. I was just like, yeah, I want it. I'll figure it out later. That was definitely me in my 20s as well. And so what was the story you told yourself when it came to making purchases, or just, when you have a credit card balance, at what point, what's a few $100s more, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, I call it kind of the script that runs in your head. And it's the same thoughts that come up over and over, especially when you're in that moment of justifying a purchase that you can't afford or you don't need. And for me, it was a few things. It was, I've always loved clothes and fashion since I was a kid. This has to be part of my life. I love it. I love clothes. I need to shop at this level in order to satisfy that passion. The answer is just making more money. I need to make more money. Once I, advance in my career, get a promotion, then my income will be able to satisfy the lifestyle that I have. But what I didn't realize was that when you have, old toxic money habits and you start making more money, that doesn't solve it. It just increases the scale of the problem. I realized that once I had gotten promotions and started making more money in my corporate career at the time.
Yeah, you're like, actually, I don't have any more money at all. I've just literally spent it all. What was your money relationship growing up? Were you taught about money and credit cards and saving and all of that as a child?
I would say it was the very basic stuff. I wouldn't say I was really taught how to use a credit. I knew what a credit card was. I knew that it accumulated interest and you had to pay it back every month, but I wouldn't say that I had really extensive education in that or had been taught really like the role money plays in our life and how it's a tool to be able to create the life we want, not just something to ignore. And so I think when I became more independent, moved off to university, got my first credit card, there was this sense, this like rebellious sense of independence where you're like, I'm free. I could buy whatever I want now. When I was younger, I was raised, very middle class, but I was the kid who had the knockoff Uggs and, didn't have an iPod Touch when everyone else had them. And I think and this is the experience of many women I work with too. There's kind of this freedom when you start making your own money to be able to buy those things, and when you don't have the clarity to know what's really important to you and the habits to make that a reality, it can become pretty damaging really quickly.
And before you started to make the change with your relationship, did your partner or your fiance know what was going on?
He knew that I shopped a lot, but I definitely hadn't disclosed the extent of what was going on financially in the background. Like he knew I was paying off some credit card debt, but it took a while until after I had really gone through the depths to shift my habits that I was more open about the full extent of that. And the shame and the secrecy is something I see a lot of people living in. A lot of women I work with are really successful in a lot of areas of their life. Maybe they're moms, they have kids, they have really good careers, but there's this one area that feels like it's not matching up to everything else. And so there's a lot of shame there, especially because shopping and owning beautiful things is something that's considered so aspirational in our society. It feels like there's something wrong when that is actually harming your life instead of helping it.
So, what'd you do when you realized, okay, something needs to change?
So part of it was realizing these scripts and these beliefs that I had been telling myself and having the wake up call to recognize those weren't true. And when I realized that, I decided to do a no buy. And I'm sure many people listening to this have heard of a no buy. I feel like they've become very trendy on social media the past few years. But I decided to put a complete pause on buying clothes for 3 months, and makeup and that stuff as well. But that was less of a vice for me personally. And I really treated this not as a punishment to myself, not as just a restriction to save money temporarily. I really was treating it as a practice ground for me to really get used to what it feels like to want something and not just default buy it immediately. And it was really a tool for me to unlearn a lot of these habits. And my goal was to come out on the other side of that with a different perspective on shopping and a different habit when it came to that. So I see a lot of people approach no buys really from that punishing restrictive place. And then when it ends, they just want to go out and spend thousands of dollars. But you really have to view it as a tool to change the way that you navigate shopping going forward.
Yeah, I've done a no buy and then I did that. I did 30 days and then it was done. It
Mhm.
was like everything add to cart. And so let's talk about this. So we have influencer culture now. We have all of these hauls, right? Like new activewear haul, new Lululemon haul, new Aritzia haul. How damaging do you think that is for women when it comes to, what we think we should look like, how we think we should be dressing, knowing our worth? Like what's
Mhm.
happening there? Because, you know, it
Mhm.
can be like, okay, yeah, I do need those pants, or she looks so great. I want that too. Like, why? What's happening here?
Right. Well, this was very relevant to my story because at the time when my shopping really started to escalate was also the time that social media was really blowing up. Influencer culture was just becoming a thing. So I very much relate to that being a huge factor in what stimulated my shopping. I think there's a few things going on. First of all, we have access to be able to compare ourselves to way more people than people in past generations would have been able to, right? Like when our moms or grandmas were young, they looked at magazines, they compared themselves to, women they knew in their life, but now we have access to be able to see all of these people on social media who look different than us, have more money than us, live a different lifestyle than us, and we're being exposed to all this comparison, and so our brains just have a hard time handling that. On top of that, there's also this thing that happens when we consume a lot of that content where we start to develop this fantasy version of ourselves that looks like those people or owns the things that those people own. And oftentimes that fantasy is almost a coping mechanism or a compensation for a way that we feel about ourselves. So if we feel like our life isn't good enough or our style isn't good enough or we don't look good enough, then it feels like with the click of a button on TikTok Shop or the Aritzia website or whatever, we're going to be able to access that version of ourselves that we want to be just through these items. And for anyone who has been struggling with this for a long time, I think it's easy to fall into that trap, but recognizing that if buying all of this stuff was going to make you feel worthy, make you feel good about yourself, make you feel confident, then it would have by now. And so there's something else going on that we need to address when it comes to, like you said, self-worth and comparison and how we find that in ourselves instead of outsourcing it with shopping or comparison on social media.
And it almost makes you feel like you need a new outfit for everything, for every event,
Exactly.
for every season. And, something that I've found really helpful is Pinterest. I feel like there's a good and a bad about Pinterest, right? Like Pinterest can do the same thing as, say, this influencer culture, making you feel like you need this to be a certain type of person. And I like what you say about that. Often we're shopping for a type of person that's not who we are. Like, for example, I was going through my closet the other day and I love blazers and I love the look of a blazer. I work from home.
It's so funny you're bringing this up because I've had this exact conversation about blazers with the women in my program this past couple of weeks because I've also had to do a blazer declutter recently, recognizing that I just don't wear them anymore for that same reason.
I have 4 black blazers. Can we even why, right? And so we're dressing for a type of person that actually isn't who we are, isn't our life. And recognizing that. But one thing that I do find really helpful when it comes to Pinterest is in the morning, like I have my board and my style. And when I'm trying to figure out what to wear, going to Pinterest and realizing we actually have so much of that already in our closet. Like we don't actually need another black long sleeve shirt.
Yeah. And a tip I give people too with Pinterest, if you're wanting to create an outfit inspiration board, only save pins of outfits that you could create with what you already have. Because if you go on there for inspiration in the morning and it's all of these images of these new trendy pieces that you don't have in your closet, that's going to make you want to shop, right? So just saving outfits that you can create.
If you've been around here for a while, you know that a huge focus of mine is calming my nervous system and bringing more peace and calm into our fast-paced life. Because step-family stress doesn't just live in the moment, it lives in your body. If you know, you know. That braced feeling before a pickup, the tight chest after a text exchange, when you're conditioned to be living in a state of anticipating what's next, you can feel that in your body. And so one of the tools that I have been using is the infrared PEMF mat from Boncharge. Boncharge is a wellness company focused on beauty, recovery, sleep, and overall well-being. But what pulled me in was their PEMF mat. PEMF stands for Pulsed Electromagnetic Field. It sends magnetic energy into the body that works with your body's natural magnetic field to support recovery, relaxation, and better sleep. It taps into the electromagnetic wavelengths that are found in nature. And the idea is simple: helps your body remember what calm feels like. Their infrared PEMF Mat Max combines those bioactive wavelengths with red and near-infrared light. It's low EMF, flicker-free, and you can literally unfold this mat into your living room, do yoga, stretch, meditate, read a book, or just lie there and let your body chill. I often put on my red light panel, also from Boncharge, and do some stretching on the mat while I'm listening to a meditation. It is all about the habit stacking. For me, it's less about performance and more about regulation. Recover faster, sleep better, focus more clearly, and show up grounded instead of reactive. And if you are building a little home recovery ritual, they also have infrared sauna blankets, red light therapy panels, blue light glasses, and more, all designed to help you increase well-being, recovery, and sleep without adding more chaos to your routine. If you want to check it out, you can use my code SCRIM for 15% off at www.boncharge.com. This is an affiliate link that helps support the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast, so go to www.boncharge.com and use the code SCRIM for 15% off. Let's be honest, when life is loud, your bedroom needs to feel like a retreat, not an extension of the chaos. There's something about climbing into really good sheets, putting on high-quality pajamas that just shifts your energy immediately. Insert Cozy Earth. I am beyond obsessed with their bamboo PJ sets and their duvet cover and sheet sets, also made from viscose from bamboo. Cozy Earth uses premium viscose from bamboo that is so soft, breathable, and temperature regulating. So you and your partner are not fighting over the thermostat at 3 a.m. You actually rest. Their loungewear and their pajamas feel put together without sacrificing comfort. And the bedding, it feels like this quiet exhale at the end of the day. And they back it with a 100-night sleep trial and money-back guarantee, so there's zero risk in upgrading. If you want to show up as the best version of yourself in your marriage, your parenting, your life, it starts with how well you sleep. Go to CozyEarth.com and use the code CozyJamie for 20% off. That's www.CozyEarth.com and use the code CozyJamie for 20% off. Upgrade your sheets, upgrade your sleep, upgrade your energy. Now, you're talking about figuring out what's really going on for you when it comes to these clothes and your worth and in doing that deep work. What did that process look like for you? So what do you feel like was actually motivating you when it comes to the shopping piece?
Well, for anyone who wants to kind of start to figure this out for themselves, the thing that I recommend to do is start to notice during the week what times you are feeling that pull to shop, to browse, to buy. Maybe I'll give a couple examples from my own life. So for me, the times that I would most often shop were in between work meetings when I was at the office. I was really not happy in my corporate job. And so I would feel a lot of frustration during the workday and I would escape by going and scrolling on my phone. For someone else, it might be when they're on the couch watching Netflix in the evening or passing by their favorite store on their way home. Notice when those times in the day are, and then start to ask yourself, what is the emotion that I'm feeling in this moment of the day, and what is shopping giving me? So going back to that between work meetings example, I was feeling frustrated, I was feeling hopeless, I was feeling angry at my job, and so shopping gave me an escape. It gave me a distraction. It gave me a sense of calm and control in those moments. And so, what is a small way that I can start to bring those feelings I'm looking for in a healthier way? Maybe it's leaving my phone at my desk and going for a 5-minute walk. Maybe it's calling my mom and just chatting for 5 minutes. Starting to notice those little moments and replace it with something else, because that will reveal the larger root cause that might be driving some of it. So if shopping is giving me that feeling of calm and control in that moment, then maybe that's the role it's playing in my life overall. And we can start to dig deeper into those root causes and see where we could be making other life shifts that will decrease that urge in a more holistic way.
Yeah. I also like what you were saying, how as a kid you didn't have the clothes or you didn't have the name brands and all of that. And I remember feeling the same way. And I think for me, especially when it comes to my daughter too, always wanting to make sure the kids have that.
Yeah.
So it's me saying to her, oh, here's the Uggs, or, here's a new sweater. Like, I got this for you. And so also doing it through parenting as well has been really interesting, because for the longest time, I felt like I never had anything to wear. I always felt really, insecure going to parties or going out at night. And then it's like you were saying, I got that credit line when I went to university. And I'll tell you, I can remember every single night out in university based on my shirt.
Yeah, well, you're bringing up a great point that our clothes have a lot of meaning to us, right? We have a lot of emotions and memories tied up into them. And it's about a lot more than just material things. Like this whole conversation, shopping, clothes, this is how we present ourselves to the world. It's part of our identity. And so it is a lot deeper than just buying things, right?
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I think it's interesting. The amount of credit that the banks will give young students is not okay. It's truly not okay. I remember walking through, I went to Brock University in St. Catharines in Ontario, and I was walking through, and this is kind of before, remember water bottles were never a thing when we were younger, right? So it wasn't like the big water bottles, but they had a coffee mug, and I would have never spent, $25 on a Brock University coffee mug. That was just insanity to me. However, if I signed up for this MMBA credit card, they were going to give me a free coffee mug. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't have a job. I have no money. I'm going to get denied, but I'm still going to get this mug, right? So I'd sign up for this credit card, pumped about my mug. Well, they gave me $10,000 I think it was maxed until I was like well into my like late 20s, 30s. It was just all of a sudden, it was just there. It was money that was available to me to give me the identity that I really wanted, to buy the shirt, to, take the trip, to do the thing. And of course, I worked and paid it off. It's just really interesting how society, too, with the debt will set people up to fail, right? Like it's just there.
Yeah, it's very much part of our culture in North America, especially. And, buy now, pay later, Afterpay, Klarna.
I think that is not okay.
It's not okay. Those services have just blown up, and I see a lot of people getting themselves into a lot of debt through those. And I think it's important to remember that credit cards, buy now, pay later, like these are loans. Like what you're doing is you're taking out a very high interest loan to buy what, a hoodie?
A $30 shirt from Aerie, like not
Right.
okay.
It's like certain kinds, like, sure, we take out a loan to buy a home, maybe a car, maybe go to university, things that really make a big impact on our life and our investments. But like, does it feel right taking out a loan to buy a sweater? Probably not. And so if we kind of shift our brain to start thinking about those in that way and take them seriously, I don't think that there's ever really a need to use buy now, pay later for shopping. I think just ruling that out of your shopping routine as a whole is the way to go. But yeah, and young people, I'm really worried about, Gen Z and the younger people who are growing up on with TikTok Shop, where shopping is one click away. I know in Canada we don't have that, but I hear about that a lot from Americans that I work with, and the accessibility of just seeing the option, pay in 4 payments on every single thing that you buy.
No, it's crazy. And I like what you're talking about when it comes to naughty. We're shopping and we don't even know what our personal style is.
Mhm.
And so this is something personally I've really dove into over the last, 3 years. Like I've really kind of honed in on my style, what I will buy, what I will invest in, kind of my color palette. But if you're working with someone or you're talking to someone who doesn't know their style, but they continue to shop, can you walk me through, the advice that you would give them, but then also some strategies to figure out what your style is in a way that feels good for you?
Well, the first step would be cutting out all the noise. Like, you're not going to find your personal style on someone else's Instagram feed, on some brand's website. Personal style is personal, so you really have to go into reconnecting with what your taste is and what your lifestyle is and what you love. And taking a break from shopping while you do this, I think, is really helpful. But what I do in my program and with the women I work with is we go into their closets and start by identifying what their most worn, most loved pieces are. I use the analogy of your closet is like an exclusive nightclub, and you're the bouncer of that nightclub. And so we start by identifying, like, who are the VIPs in that club? If you lost all your clothes tomorrow, which pieces would you want to repurchase immediately? Because those pieces tell you a lot about what is intrinsically you, what you intrinsically love and wear. And so starting with those pieces gives you a lot of data and details to be able to compare and analyze the rest of the items that you have. And it's really important to get specific on what it is you love about those. Do I like this t-shirt because the neckline sits at a certain place, it's a certain length, it's a certain fit? What is it specifically that you like? Because personal style really is built bottom up from those specific things, instead of attaching ourselves to a certain label like minimalist or 90s or cottagecore or whatever all these trendy kind of aesthetic
What's
labels are now.
cottagecore?
It's a TikTok one. I don't know. But I think that I was very much trapped in this for a long time, that I felt like I had to find all the puzzle pieces to perfect this certain cohesive style. But we're humans, we're not brands. And our style is built on all the little things we love, not by fitting into this particular box.
Yeah, I love that. And then so would you go to Pinterest from there and start to look for inspiration?
I would really like just pay attention to your relationship with your own closet to start. So asking yourself, how do I want to feel in my closet in the morning? Do I want to feel effortless? Do I want to feel confident? Do I want to look at my closet and feel at peace with everything that's there, not feel guilty or annoyed or frustrated when I'm getting dressed? And then, is this piece that I'm going to buy going to help me feel like that? Does it go with the other things I own? Does it make sense with the VIPs that I've identified in my closet? Or is it going to sit with the tag still on? I always talk about this one example of this pair of Prada loafers that I bought when I was in peak of my toxic shopping habits, and these shoes cost more than my rent at the time. And I bought them and I wore them maybe a couple times because there was a part of me that felt this imposter syndrome of wearing this super expensive shoe with the brand name on it that I couldn't actually afford. And so recognizing like, do I want this just because I want to acquire it, or do I want it because I actually am excited to have it in my wardrobe and use it every day?
Where are the shoes now?
Oh, I sold them ages ago. I probably sold them a year after I bought them.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about getting rid of items that don't bring you joy? Are you like Marie Kondoing your closet and just if it does not bring you joy, if it's not aligned with who you are, like out you go?
Well, after you identify those VIP pieces, you can then ask yourself, okay, what other pieces in my closet deserve to share space in this nightclub with my VIPs? And then anything that you're not able to wear right now, so things that don't fit, things that you like but you don't wear and you're not really sure why, any of those maybe pieces, I recommend putting in an archive. So this could be a closet in a different room in your house. It could be in a box or a bin, but taking pieces that you can't wear or don't want to wear or aren't sure about out of your closet entirely for now. So you can come back to them later and look at them with fresh eyes, because I know for myself still when I do this and I open up that bin a couple months later, it's very, very clear which items I'm excited to wear again and which ones I'm like, oh, okay, like I could get rid of this. But having that separation to come back to them is really helpful.
I love that. I do that. I put it in a bin in a basement and then,
Yeah.
when the new season comes, or often I'll be looking at something online and think to myself like, oh, I actually have that in the bin. When it comes to creating your style, do you have any recommendations in terms of, is it capsule wardrobe? Is it, multi-use items? Is it, always in the same color palette? Like, what do you recommend there?
So for me, for a long time, I was really scared of pursuing a more intentional method of shopping, because I thought that in order to be an intentional shopper, you had to be a minimalist, you had to have a capsule wardrobe, you had to have, these jeans, this white button up, this little black dress. And I don't love that approach, because it's outsourcing what our closet should be to some other standard that isn't ourselves and what we love and wear. And so I don't think there's like a specific framework that I would say, but just really paying attention to what makes you feel excited when you get dressed. Like, what is that item that you could wear over and over again? I know a lot of my clients have done color analysis, and those things can be really helpful for kind of affirming the reason why you love something. But again, not constricting yourself to these certain rules of what you should wear. It's really, does this feel good in my gut? Does this excite me when I want to wear it? Marie Kondo, as you mentioned, uses the spark joy term. And I think that's so great. Like, does this spark joy? Great. That is the thing you should be following. And separating yourself from shopping really gives you the space to be able to feel more connected to that intrinsic part of, we all are creative. We all have taste. It just takes a little bit of focus to be able to really feel connected to that.
Lately, I've been really diving into the back end of my business, the platforms I use for my website and email lists and contracts, all of that. And I've realized that I want to spend way less time managing tech and more time coaching, podcasting, connecting with you. Admin is not really my thing. So I have been moving more and more over to Kajabi. Kajabi is an all-in-one platform for creators. Your website, your email marketing, your landing pages, your automations, payments, courses, community, all in one place. And they don't take a percentage of your profit. I have literally built a 7-figure business with multiple streams of income using Kajabi as the backbone. It runs my programs, my email list, my digital products, everything. And you can even create your own custom app inside Kajabi, which, by the way, have you downloaded my app yet? When your back end is streamlined, you have more capacity to actually create and lead. And if you've been thinking about turning your expertise into income, this is your sign. Kajabi is your answer. You can get a 30-day free trial using my link at www.jamiescrimger.com/Kajabi. That is www.jamiescrimger.com/Kajabi for 30 days free. Build your business on a platform that can actually grow with you. www.jamiescrimger.com/Kajabi, Kajabi, for 30 days free. Now, when you are deciding what to buy, what process do you go through? Because you've talked about having, you have a buy list or like something that you want, and when does it come off? Because I will say, I took your tip,
Okay.
and then I did want it, and it was sold out. So
Mm.
I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should just buy. I just my life is still fine. Everything is great. It wasn't the end of the world, but I was kind of laughing there. I'm like, okay.
Well, here, I'll tell you how I go about shopping, and then I'll answer your question after of, okay, well, what if it sells out? Because that's the question I get
Yeah.
the most often. So using a wish list is a non-negotiable, I think, if you want to be an intentional shopper, because it really helps you change that default reaction. We're used to, if I want something, I buy it, the autopilot response. But what we're trying to do is change what that autopilot response is. So I want it, I add it to my wish list. And seeing all of those items that you want together, it gives you perspective on the total amount that all would cost, where your desires are coming from. Like, is it Instagram that's making me want all these things? Like, why am I collecting all of these things to want? So keeping a wish list is very important, and then it allows you to create some distance between that impulse and the actual decision of buying it. So adding it onto I sell a template, but you can do this in a note on your phone too. Keeping it there, waiting at least 48 hours, I would say, to purchase that. And there's three pillars of an intentional purchase that you should consider when you're deciding to buy something. Three questions that I recommend. The first pillar is emotional neutrality. So if you're feeling that urgency, that panic, that feeling like I need to have this thing or I won't be okay, that is a sign that that purchase is filling an emotional job for you, which isn't a healthy way to be navigating our shopping habits. So am I feeling urgency? Am I feeling panic? If any of those like really intense activated emotions are happening when I'm buying this, that's a sign that I should probably wait. The second one is authentic impact in your life, in your closet. Is this item actually going to make a real long term improvement in my life, whether that is a functional one or an aesthetic one, right? We buy things we want not necessarily because we need them, right? And that's okay. But it should bring a unique purpose and actually be used in your life, right? The third one is financial integrity, of course. Like, can I afford this? Do I have the money for this right now? Even if I am using a credit card to pay for it, could I pay off that credit card right away? I'm not using buy now, pay later or anything
Yeah.
like that. So there's those three pieces. And I would say if any one of those is missing when you're deciding about a purchase, then it's probably best to wait until all three of those things can be met and you've put some distance between that impulse and when you're buying it.
I love
So
that.
to answer your final question of, okay, Hannah, that sounds great and dandy, but what if it's about to sell out? And I think you kind of answered the question there when you said it was okay, I didn't die, everything was fine. Part of this work is building up our emotional capacity to be okay with discomfort. Are my long-term goals buying a home, going traveling, these other things I want to put my money towards? If those are more important, then I need to trust myself that I can be okay, even if the pain of that item selling out is uncomfortable sometimes, because that will happen. But staying consistent to this style of shopping and this way I want to approach how I spend my money is more important than sacrificing that for an item.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and it can be hard and it's uncomfortable, but as you do it more and more, you start to trust yourself and know that you'll be okay. I was in a store a couple weeks ago. I was with my husband. I thought it was only a menswear store that we were going into, but just so happened they had some women's things, and I tried on this jacket that I absolutely loved. Had no plans to buy anything that day, and there was only a couple left. It was on sale. I was like, okay, I'm not going to impulse buy this. Put on my wish list tonight. I'll wake up tomorrow and check on their website. And maybe if it's still there, once I've given it some time to think about it, maybe I'll buy it. Wake up the next morning, check, and it's completely sold out. And yeah, it was a little bit annoying. It was a little bit disappointing, but there are always things to want. I know that there'll be another jacket that I want, maybe even more at some time in the future. And even if I feel a little bit annoyed in this moment, I won't not going to be thinking about this a week from now. And just trusting that it is in my control to feel okay and feel good. It's not up to some item that I'm buying.
Yes. No, I know. It's so hard though. I bet you will think about that jacket though.
It is hard, but the more you do it, the more you
No, I know.
practice.
I'm
And
just joking.
that's like why a no buy I think is so helpful, because it gives you that confidence that you can get past it in those moments.
Well, it's interesting. I was preparing for this episode. I was getting ready upstairs. I said, maybe I should do a no buy for 90 days. And then I think I got a rash. And no, I was just like, okay, but I have this trip coming up. I have this coming up. Okay, I'll do it after that.
Hmm.
And so it is really interesting how we have this mentality. We need something new for a trip. We need something new for, whatever is coming up in our life. And it's hard to commit to those without realizing, okay, well, maybe we do have some stuff in our closet that can work. And on that note, are there things that you feel are staples for people to have in their closet? So that, because I do really believe that. For me, I've worked really hard over the last couple of years. I basically always just wear black, neutrals, all of that. It's just, I feel better in it. I remember people saying to me, you need more color in your life. You should wear more color. And I was always gravitating towards just, black and neutral. So I finally leaned
Hmm.
into it, and I feel, maybe I don't need all those black blazers, but I feel like I really just kind of have my staples that if I need something, like I can make something work no matter what. What would you recommend to your clients as those staples?
Well, I think those staples are a little bit different for everyone. I always recommend kind of identifying what your uniform is, what your go-to uniform is. On a day when I show up to my closet and I'm not feeling excited to get dressed, what is an outfit combination that I can always rely on? For me, it's like a mid-rise wide leg pant with a more fitted top. Maybe a cashmere sweater like thrown over my shoulders. To me, that's just a go-to uniform for me. I know I'll always feel good in that combination. One of my clients the other day called it your emergency outfit, like the
Yeah.
outfit you go back to when nothing else seems to work. And that is where your basics or your staples can be found. We talked about the VIPs earlier. Like those show you your basics. For me, it's a cashmere oversized sweater. For me, it's a pair of wide leg pleated pants. It's a pair of like mid-rise baggy Levi's. And those might be different for someone else. Some of the women I work with are super minimalist and neutral and only wear those type of clothes, but some are super eclectic and wear a lot of vintage and really fun, loud pieces. And for them, their staples might look different. It might be just thinking of one client I worked with, hers was like a big A-line poplin skirt or like a mesh mock neck underlayer with a cool pattern. She had a few of those in her closet. And so those staples are very different than your black basics, right?
Yeah.
So again, going back to those VIPs and seeing like what are my staples? What is the foundation of my personal style?
Yeah, because I guess that mentality, thinking you need certain staples, like that capsule wardrobe, could actually bring someone, well, it brings me more peace and less shopping, actually brings them further away from what they really want and how they really want to feel.
Hmm. Well, the notion of a capsule wardrobe is a more minimalist, neutral style. And so if that is your style, that's going to resonate with you, but that isn't everyone's style. And there might be pieces in that just don't work for you. I don't really wear button ups that often. I've just accepted that doesn't need to be a staple in my closet if I don't love it.
That's very interesting because I have a couple button ups that I feel like I should have and I should wear, and I don't wear them as much as I want to because it's just not really for me.
Yeah. And accepting that instead of feeling like, oh no, I have to find a way to style this just because everyone else does.
Yeah. So good. Okay. Can we talk about girl math?
We can talk about girl math. Absolutely.
Let it rip on girl math for me because I know that you are like, this girl math thing is not, it's not the
This
move.
has been a big conversation for me recently. Yes. So I'm sure people have heard this term, but if you haven't, girl math has kind of been this viral, jokey term, cute term on social media to describe the way that we justify poor money decisions or poor spending decisions as women. So examples of this could be like, oh, if I just buy a few more pieces, then I get the discount. And so I'm actually saving money. Or, oh, if I return this sweater that I bought, then I'm basically getting free money. These little kind of silly tricks that we play
Yeah,
with
like
ourselves.
I returned my Aritzia haul, and so I made $250 today.
Exactly. But the subtext of this term is that women are bad with money. It's like we're associating poor spending decisions with womanhood and femininity and leaving good decisions to the men. And I hate that. I'm sure that many people hearing me describe this right now don't like that. So how can we take back those decisions and take ownership of our decisions and make being good with our money also a thing for women? I think it's really, really damaging, and it also trivializes the harm that poor spending habits can actually have on our lives.
It's just like how many women are like, have a secret credit card or don't want to tell their partner about even the Botox bill or, that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. And I agree. I just wonder how much of this just comes from the pressure that's put on women to show up a certain way, to look a certain way, to present like we have it all together, right? Even it's the athleisure wear now, right? And so, I love a good sweatsuit. I love that, but I would never walk out of the house not fully put together. Like I'm in my comfies, but it's still put together, right? It's almost like we have this pressure now that even when we're being comfy and being authentic in ourselves, it has to be this like elevated version, which, hey, I'm totally guilty of, and I don't actually plan on changing that. But it's something to talk about.
Hmm. It's important to honor what makes us feel good, but also be reflective on how the decisions we're making are being influenced by these standards, because the standards are always changing. Body standards, beauty standards, fashion trends. Like the target is always moving, and so if we feel like we need to buy and do all of these things for our appearance to kind of achieve this sense of perfection, we're never going to get there because that definition of perfection is always moving. And the deeper, more, self-love part of this work is decentering stuff and our appearance from our self-worth, right?
Hmm.
I like to use the phrase, the way you look is the least interesting thing about you. And that's not to say we should ignore it. It's not to say that it's bad to want to look, to want to feel good and feel put together when we leave the house. But is that the thing that you're relying on in order to feel confident in your life, feel worthy, feel love for yourself? If it is, then there's some deeper soul searching that probably needs to be done there.
Yeah. And that's interesting too, because it's also what society really values. I was listening to
Hmm.
something the other day. I was saying, you're more likely to, be taken seriously if you're dressed a certain way or show up a certain way. Actually, someone was doing what they wore to the airport. And she was saying she took a red eye flight. And I was looking at her outfit and I'm thinking, you took a red eye and you're dressed like you are in like work outfit. And she said that her dad had always taught her that when you fly, you always dress your best because you don't know who you're going to sit next to. But she was sleeping on that plane and sleeping in that outfit. And so there is that piece too, right? Where it's
Hmm.
like it's valued in our society. And so maybe it's not about not prioritizing what you look like or how you're presenting yourself, but if that's all you have to go on, it's
Exactly.
like, and also I don't understand when someone's fully dressed for the airplane. I just can't. That's not something I'm getting behind.
Yeah, no, you won't even recognize me. I'll be like sweatpants, hood up, like
Yeah. It's actually really
Uh,
interesting the shift on that, right? Like if you think about it, when our grandparents were flying, like they were full suits.
yeah, true. And you watch shows like I love watching Mad Men and seeing how much the women, and it's like set in the 1950s, and how all the women, they look incredible every single day. They do spend 2 hours doing their hair. They're wearing these like insane dresses. And there's something cool about that, and I don't it clothes make us feel good, and dressing in a killer outfit that makes you feel your best, like that's amazing. But like you said, like if that's the only place that we're getting that confidence and self-worth from, then there needs to be some balance there.
No, for sure. Now, you did say something, I think it was on one of your Instagrams. I have the direct quote here. I want to bring it up. You said, my shopping habits were hurting my relationship with my closet, my style, my partner, and most importantly, myself. How was your shopping impacting your marriage and your relationship with your partner?
Mm. The period through which I did my no buy was during our engagement. So it was during that period of time. Before that happened, it was in the form of little white lies, like him asking me, "Oh, is that a new necklace?" And me saying, "Oh no, like I've had this for a while. You've never seen it before." Those little white lies that I'm sure many people listening to this have
Never,
said
never.
before. It looked like shipping things to my office so that I could, sneak it into the house when he wasn't there, shoving packages under the bed, little things like that that, like you're disappointing yourself, but then you also feel like you're not showing up in the best way for your partner. And I think sometimes the women I work with, their husbands don't really understand that this compulsive shopping behavior can stem from a deeper place and it takes the form sometimes in the extremes as people who struggle with like binge eating and problematic relationships with food. I like to compare it to that a lot because it's something that it can turn into this compulsion, but like food, it's something we have to do. We have to shop, we have to spend money. And so we can't just go sober on shopping forever. We have to learn how to have a healthy relationship with it. And so that's how it was sort of showing up in my relationship, kind of these little secrecies, these little lies, and that doesn't feel good. I want to show up as the partner that I want to be, as a wife I want to be, and keeping those things hidden and feeling like there's things I can't share doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it's actually interesting because I just did a episode on money mindset. And
Hmm.
realistically, if you are hiding purchases, if you are feeling shame around these purchases, that's not a healthy relationship with money. That's not
No,
even like you can't even really be in an abundance mindset when you are hiding it.
no, no, of course. And that's a huge sign that it's time to deal with the issue because, that means that your habits aren't at a place where you are proud of and they're probably hurting you in other ways financially, your closet, etc.
So I'm a stepmom. And so
Hmm.
when I was 26, I got together with my husband who's 40, recently separated, 3 kids. He, obviously has the ex-wife and it was in this space where I presented as so confident, but I was
Mm,
so insecure. Like deep inside, I just felt like I needed to prove myself and prove my worth. And I do really think that's where my shopping stemmed from. And so it was, going to the hockey arena. I wanted to make sure, sure, I was in my Lulus, but I had like the best Lulu outfit. Or, you know, going to these conferences. I remember going to conferences with my husband and what you're wearing at 26 is very different than what the 40-year-old women at these conferences are wearing. And so for me, it was trying to figure out like how to dress appropriately in these scenarios while also still being a 26-year-old and getting kind of these comments as like the new young wife and all of that. And so I really do think that insecurity and that desire to shop came from just my experience in stepmotherhood as that new young wife. And I never really figured out like where that came from until recently. It was like I was trying to prove myself, prove my worth, and wanted to present myself as a certain way. And it came through clothes, which is why I always used to joke around. They're like, money doesn't buy happiness. I'm like, I don't know. Anyone got like an Aritzia haul? Cause like that really made me feel good. Right. And it's true. It really does. It gives you that hit. But when you're needing another hit next week, that's when the problem comes in.
mm. Well, the question I would pose back to you were that your shopping habits helping you actually feel more put together in yourself and more confident in yourself, or was it just that you were doing them in order to get approval from other people?
I think maybe both. Like, if I'm being very honest,
Mhm.
I think when I was dressed a certain way and I had the right clothes for it and I was showing up a certain way, I did feel more confident. So I think it helped kind of that fake it till you make it mentality.
Right, but like you said, there's a temporary nature to it. Like you buy the Aritzia haul, you wear those clothes, you feel really good, but then you're back in the same place a week later where you're
Right.
craving buying all these things. And so it's temporary reward that is often when it gets to the point where we are going into debt and it's really, causing problems financially, then we feel really good in the moment, but it's creating so much more guilt and so much more shame and so much more self-criticism in the grand scheme of things. It's like superficial. It's like a
Yes.
really exciting spark of, that dopamine, but then it balloons into something that is harming our lives in a larger way.
Yeah, because you're only as good as your last Lululemon set.
Exactly.
Totally. One last thing I actually just popped in my head, kind of going back on that blazer conversation. Remember doing a photo shoot. And I don't know if you noticed this too, and being in the online space, like you're looking at other people's content and oh, I should be doing this or I should look like, you know what I mean? Like it's very, you're looking at everyone else's business highlight reel all day, which
Yes.
is, I almost wonder, worse than like looking at someone's life highlight reel. Like when you're an entrepreneur, like you're constantly looking at everyone's wins. And I don't know if you've ever gotten to this space where you see like a certain type of content, you're like, oh, I should totally do that. And a couple of years ago, I found myself doing a photo shoot with a crop top and a sequins blazer. And when the girls were doing the photos, they're like, what is up? Like, this is not who you are. Like, where's this like spunky girl who, will take these photos, and where's your energy? And I couldn't figure out what it was after. And I finally was like, this sparkly blazer is stupid. This is not me. Where am I ever going to wear a sparkly blazer? And what does a sparkly blazer actually have to do with me and my personal brand? Right? It's so crazy how you can get into that mindset where you're like, why am I in a crop top?
Yeah. Well, it's another example of how putting so much of our attention on what other people are doing, what other people are wearing, just pulls us away from feeling connected to with what feels authentic to us. It's like the more noise you let in, the harder it's going to be to feel grounded in that.
Okay. So good. All right. Someone is listening to this. They're like, okay, Hannah, you got me. I am going to dial back on this. So obviously the no buy, but do you have any other last minute tips, and how can people get into your world? Because you really do have a really good way of, I don't love the calling out language, but it's like you're calling people forward.
The thing that I would really consider and take some time to think about after this would be thinking about, like, if you imagine your attention and things you pay attention to in your life like a pie, how big of a piece of that pie is clothes, makeup, shopping taking up? How much attention are you putting towards that? And what would your ideal attention pie like to be? How much space does family take up? How much space do creative hobbies take up? Exercise, these other areas of your life? Because something that I see, a mistake I see some people make is, they do a no buy, or they try to cut down on shopping. And all of a sudden, this piece of the pie that was filling up a lot of space for them is gone. And they don't actually do anything to try to fill that with other things. And so eventually shopping just comes back and fills that hole again. But expanding joy and fulfillment in other areas of your life that you care about really helps you build sustaining, intentional habits. So the women I work with who have the most success, like really maintaining good habits with shopping going forward, are the ones who got really into going to Pilates or started sewing again after they had abandoned the hobby a few years ago, or really started focusing on spending more time with their kids. They invest in hobbies and other areas of their life that are meaningful to them, so that they don't crave shopping as a way to kind of seek emotional gratification and fulfillment. So if there's anything that you should, maybe journal about after this, it would be that.
That is very, very good. Well, thank you so much. Where can everyone find you?
Thank you. You can follow me on Instagram. It's just the Style Audit on there, or on TikTok. The main way I work with people, I run a group program that helps you kind of go from really compulsive shopping habits to intentional ones. And so you can head to my website to join the waitlist for that. It's just thestyleaudit.com.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I think this is such important work that you're putting out onto the internet amidst all of the hauls and the pressure.
Well, I'm grateful to have this conversation with you and bring it to more people. And the work you're doing is very inspiring as well.
That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with someone in your life who you think could benefit from it. And if you haven't already left a rating and a review on iTunes, it really is the best way to support the show. And if you're craving more real talk and coaching and community, be sure to check out my membership, the KICK-ASS Stepmom community. Head to www.kickassstepmom.com to learn more.